12:35, sir.
3. Okay. So seniors, I convey a strong message for every cadet that if they are not attending these classes, this will affect their B&C certificate examination. Bloody, I will make sure that they will not attend the B&C if they have less than 75% of attendance. Clear? Because even I am getting the entire strength, particularly flight B. Pass on the strong message mentioning that if they do not attend these classes, then they will not get to write B and C certificate exam. Is that clear, seniors? All 3 flights?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now somebody help me out with what was our last topic? A quick revision. Yes. Okay, so what we discussed in the Met. So I want someone to unmute your mic and discuss with me what we had the discussion. Quick. Yes, cadets. I'm waiting for your reply. What we had discussed in the Met last week. Quick, senior cadets. Am I audible to you all?
Yes, sir.
And tell me what we had discussed. Where are my favorite cadets? Manish. Manish is there?
Yes, sir.
What happened, Manish? You have been so silent. You're not responding.
I think, sir. I'm here, sir.
Huh?
I'm here, sir.
Then what we had discussed in the last class?
1 second, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? You don't have much time. Quick. Bloody, I will conduct test in the next week.
Sir, layers of the atmosphere.
Sorry. Come again.
Layers of atmosphere.
Layers of atmosphere. And what else?
So the percentage of composition
their
in the
heights.
dry air.
Composition.
Yeah. And then the all the standard atmospheric
All standard
pressure,
atmospheric
temperature.
conditions.
Yeah.
Standard
Yes.
atmospheric conditions. Yes. Okay.
Sir, about segmented circle also and how to interpret it.
Sorry. About
Segmented circle, sir.
what circles?
Segmented circle, sir. The circle with like the L shape about and the wind cone in the middle, sir. Segmented circles.
That is not in the last class. Were you there in the last class?
I was, sir.
Segmented circles we talked in the airmanship, no? Isn't it? Last class we discussed on meteorology.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. I got confused. Sorry, sir.
Don't get confused. Stay focused. Okay. Chalo, fine. Then a few of you have given the input, so then we'll move ahead. You can see the screen.
Yes, sir, visible.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yes, sir.
so in the last session, we had discussed about the atmospheric standards, the international ASI international standard of atmosphere. So mean sea level is 15 degrees, mean sea level pressure is 1013.25 millibar, surface density is 1225 Gs per meter cube, acceleration due to gravity is 9.8 meters per second square, and rate of fall of temperature with high up to 11 kilometers. Now, I want to understand from you all the temperature coefficient in the atmosphere. Now, tell me, in which region, in the first region, what is the first layer of the atmosphere? Unmute your mic and speak quick. What is the first layer of atmosphere?
Troposphere.
Troposphere.
Okay, so in troposphere, as we go higher in the altitude in the troposphere, the temperature drops or temperature increase? Did you get my question?
It decreases, sir.
Decreases as you go up, sir.
Increases, sir.
As we go higher in the altitude in troposphere, I'm talking, temperature increase or decrease?
Temperature
Decreases.
decreases, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me write your answer. So if this is your Earth surface, so then maybe this is the first layer, troposphere. So as we go higher in the altitude, what happens? The temperature decrease. So we get something like this. Which is the next layer?
Stratosphere.
So what happens in stratosphere as we go higher in altitude? Temperature increase or decrease?
Increase, sir.
Increases, sir.
So for certain it is constant and then it increase. Next layer is
Mesosphere.
Mesosphere.
again here decrease. Next layer is
Ionosphere.
so next is we'll get ionosphere. Ionosphere, what happens? Temperature increase. So this zigzag you remember. So first it starts with troposphere with decreasing and then increase, decrease, increase. So this diagram you should remember it. Here that is here, right? Decrease and then it is constant for some altitude and again increase, constant, increase, constant and again thermosphere. Rather than calling it as ionosphere, it is thermosphere because layer of thermosphere is called as ionosphere. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now moving ahead, we'll talk about clouds today. So clouds are defined as visible aggregate of minute particles of water or ice or both. So it's a minute particles in a form of water or ice. So how does this clouds form? As you all know that due to the evaporation process and condensation process, the clouds are formed. So if you look into the formal definition, the clouds are formed by cooling of masses of damp air because the air which is surrounding us, it holds certain water molecules. It depends how much water molecule it holds. In the summer, it is less. In the winter or rainy season, it is more. So that is the dryness of the air that it defines, the amount of water molecule that it can hold. So the clouds are formed by cooling of masses of damp air generated by upward motion and its accompanying expansion with fall of pressure. Because as we know that as we go higher and higher in the altitude, what happens? The pressure drops. So due to this drop in the pressure, these air molecules get expanded and condense and forms the clouds. Now, what are the various mechanisms for cloud formation? Turbulent motion leading to numerous small scale upward currents, uphill current over sloping ground, large scale convection as a result of surface heating, and currents of warm moist air moving upwards over a wedge of clouds air and cloud air acting in the same way. Now looking into the classification of clouds. So here we have different families: high clouds, medium clouds, low clouds, and vertically developed clouds. This you have to remember, and this comes in your exam also. So high clouds exist at an altitude of 20,000 feet and above. Note down these points. High clouds exist at an altitude of 20,000 feet and above, and these are called with the name cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus. These are all you can think of as a family of cirrus. Okay. Cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus. Medium clouds are at an altitude of 6,500 to 20,000 feet. These are a kind of a altostratus, altocumulus, and nimbostratus. So nimbostratus forms at the low altitude. It may be near to 6,500 or approximately that level. And low clouds, or it may form from ground level up to 6,500 feet. These are stratus, stratocumulus. So these low clouds are main which determines the precipitation. That means fall of rainfall is due to the low clouds which forms. That is stratus and stratocumulus clouds which results in precipitation. Whereas vertical clouds also results in the precipitation which grows vertically from 1,500 feet to 6,500 feet, reaching high and mid clouds. So these are called as cumulus and cumulonimbus. Clear? High clouds are cirrus family. You just remember like this. That is at 20,000 feet and above. Cirrus, cirrostratus, cirrocumulus. Medium clouds from 6,500 to 20,000 feet. Alto family, altostratus, altocumulus, nimbostratus. And low clouds are from ground to 6,500 feet. That is stratus and strato. These are called as stratus families. So stratus and stratocumulus. And vertical called as cumulus and cumulonimbus. So I can see in this diagram the various clouds at different altitudes. Now nimbostratus at the mid cloud as well as the low clouds results in the precipitation. That is what it is shown here. So stratus and stratocumulus. So if you look into here, strato and stratocumulus are at the low clouds, and the vertical cloud is cumulonimbus and cumulus. So this is a cumulus. This is cumulonimbus, which is grown vertically. Strato, stratus, and stratocumulus. And this is in the mid clouds, altostratus and altocumulus. Whereas the nimbocumulus is actually, it is grown from low cloud to high cloud. It's a thick dark cloud which forms during the sometime where we say it is a cyclonic effect. So those kind of clouds you can see. So whereas the which in the high clouds, say 20,000 and above, it is the cirrus, cirrostratus, and cirrocumulus. It is like this, a small patches or like shades that you can see here. So the high clouds look like this. So these are the detached clouds, which looks white, like white patches or narrow bands. So it looks like a narrow bands. So cirrocumulus looks like thin white patches again, but very close when compared to cirrus. These clouds does not result in any rainfall. Remember that. And cirrostratus, which you can see in the evening time, so it is a continuous clouds, looks like transparent whitish clouds, like fibrous. And coming to medium clouds, don't get confused with this cirrocumulus and altocumulus. Cirrocumulus looks thin and with clear blue sky, whereas the altocumulus is completely covered with these dark clouds but little spaces. So there's a kind of a gray color clouds with white combination. Whereas altostratus is completely grayish or bluish clouds, sheets like this. And coming to nimbostratus. So nimbostratus, as I told you, the dark, thick clouds which results in the precipitation, where you can see that, okay, now it's going to rain. So those kind of clouds, you can see that is a nimbostratus. And stratocumulus, altocumulus, and cirrocumulus. These are, there is a certain resemblance. You see stratocumulus, you see altocumulus, you see cirrocumulus. There is a resemblance, but still you can able to make out with the kind of streams. Whereas the altocumulus and stratocumulus, there is a very slight difference is there. Stratus is the completely filled grayish clouds, which results in rain and snow. And the cumulus looks like this, which is grown vertically, and cumulonimbus is here, which is again the vertically. This you can see near the mountains or huge tar kind of thing. Here again it is shown different diagrams. So this is a vertically grown, that is a cumulonimbus. These are the low clouds, cumulus, stratus, stratocumulus, and nimbostratus here, so which grows from low to a medium cloud, and altocumulus and altostratus. This is how it looks. You see, you can easily make out the altocumulus and cirrocumulus. You see the cirrocumulus looks like dots, whereas the grayish spread clouds with small gaps here. This you can distinguish. And this is cirrus, which looks like a drawing or a bird kind of thing that you can make out. So meteorological department do continuous reading of all these weather monitoring systems. Being into aviation, the pilots also should have this knowledge, and being a cadet, even you should know, and you should able to recognize the clouds by looking at the open sky. Now, if you look into the types of precipitation, so there are different types of precipitation which results in the rainfall or so many things. One is a drizzle, that is this spray kind of a rain that we are witnessing now at this present time. So today there was morning, there was a slight drizzle. Now there are no heavy rains, it's only the drizzling which is happening. So I hope even you have witnessed, maybe today or maybe yesterday. So it's a minute water drops falling from the clouds. So this again comes in the examination, the types of precipitation, and you have to explain it. So the formal definition also note down. So drizzle means it's a minute water particles falling from the cloud. So the drops are so small that they look like spray and or at times blown and carried by wind. It means it doesn't fall straight. It depends on the wind. If wind is high, so it goes in that direction. Rain is which we call the medium-sized water droplets falling from the layer type of clouds. Snow is frozen rain in the form of flakes or ice crystals. So sleet is a mixture of rain and snow. So next comes shower. So shower is very high clouds which we witness in the Dakshin Kannada most of the times. So there's a heap type of clouds. From heap type of clouds which we can see. And thunderstorm, you all know, from lightning and raining, both. This is from CB cloud, that is cumulus cloud. And hailstorm is, hail, the pellets kind of stone, water pellets which fall from sky. So this is a hailstorm. And flying hazards in thunderstorm. So what are the different flying hazards in the thunderstorm? One is a squall. Can anybody tell me what is squall is? Yes.
Sudden increase in the wind direction.
Yes, the sudden increase in the wind direction. It's not only the wind, but also the, the rain. So, for example, if it is raining and also at the same time it is, the wind is very high at the same time. I want to show you a small. So, squall, you can see it something like this. You see that this is, we call it as squall, the rain squall. It's a rain plus shower. A high wind, a sudden increase in the wind during the rain. This is squall. It's something like this, and this temporary increase in wind strength, and this is not last for long, this is just for a few seconds. So if the wind speed increases up to 20 or 16 to 20 knots. So as the hot air gets, increases, then the clouds started expanding, and along with that wind direction, what happens is that the wind plus rain, it starts moving at very high speed, clouds. So this red line, whatever you see, is the warm air, and this blue arrows is the cold air. Okay. There is a swell. So sudden increase in the wind during the rain, and you have seen that hot air entering into the clouds, and then cold air on the other side is pushing the clouds, and clouds get expanded. So all this phenomenon happens in the swell. And a heavy shower is again the hazardous condition. So it's a, then visibility gets low during that heavy shower. So everyone I witnessed when traveling, if you get heavy rainfall, what happens? You cannot see the road. And low clouds also a hazardous condition. So when the low clouds are there, when we are traveling at some hilly areas, what happens? Then visibility also gets poor. And poor in flight visibility is also another hazardous condition. So droughts is another hazardous condition where within the clouds, strong up drought and down droughts may cause a sudden and large variation in the altitude of aircraft. And gust is, when aircraft get into this cloud, sometimes what happens, it feels a bumpiness of an aircraft. And hail is also another problem. So here the super cold water drops, which can cause ice age up to great heights, and lightning is another problem for the aircrafts. So this will affect the radio navigation system during communication. Okay. Moving ahead to visibility. What is the visibility? So it's a degree of transparency of atmosphere, or it can also be defined as it is the measure of maximum distance to which a person with normal vision can see an object and recognize it. So this is called as visibility. And for an aircraft to fly, the visibility should be good. It should be 8 nautical miles horizontally to fly in the VFR conditions, visual flight rule conditions, as you all know it. But at times, during winters, during rainy seasons, the problem of visibility occurs. And this is completely again studied by a meteorological department, and whatever the report the meteorological department gives, that is with respect to horizontal visibility. But they doesn't give the report with respect to vertical visibility, because again, the vertical and slant visibility is the problem here. So the report gives horizontal visibility at the ground level, and this will be different from vertical and slant visibility. So the reports gives the lowest visibility after scanning all directions, though visibility can be substantially different in different directions. So the visibility may not be same. If you travel, say, 1 kilometer, the visibility might be different due to the lower clouds or mist or other reasons. So even you might have experienced in the Ghat section when you are traveling. So the visibility at some high peak is different, and when you come at the another curve, the visibility is changed. Okay, due to different formation of the mist. So estimate of visibility depends on illumination of the landmarks selected for observation, and visibility report at night is actually an estimate of equivalent daytime visibility. So the different types of visibility affect aviation is, there are 3 types. One is the horizontal visibility, vertical visibility, and slant visibility. So horizontal visibility that we all can see when we stand at some place and we see horizontally, which in front of us, that is horizontal visibility. Vertical visibility is when we are, this is experienced by an aircraft pilot, that is when taking off or landing, or slant visibility. The causes of poor visibility is, again, this will come in the examination, the causes of poor visibility. So one is dust, haze, and dust arising winds. So dust haze is again the small particles. So it's a wide spread of dust held in this that is suspension for a number of days due to persistent strong winds caused by steep pressure gradient. And in this case, the visibility reduced to 5 kilometers. And dust rising winds, again due to high winds and the small dust particles, again that will reduce the visibility to 3 to 5 kilometers. Next, dust storms, also a reason for poor visibility, and this will reduce the visibility to 1000 meters, and sometimes even shorter than that. And smoke haze is the another reason for poor visibility. That is, the smoke may be from industries or some domestic sources, or maybe forest fire or any kind of fire or industrial smoke. So this will call this kind of smokes, we call it as the smoke haze, or maybe pollution, all these things. Delhi experienced this. So our major city Delhi experience this smoke haze most of the times, even in the winter. So the haze, so it's a spread of a haze layer when the wind is calm or very light. So under extreme conditions, here the visibility is 100 meters, but usually it is in order of 2 to 5 kilometers. So moist haze, this is during the winter, and this will not be there for a longer time. This is during the early morning, and as the time passes or as the sun rises, this moist haze disappears. Or again, the moist haze increase in the evening times. So here it is with relative humidity of 75% and with a visibility of 2 to 5 kilometers. And mist is the another reason. So when moist haze thickens up, then the visibility, then we call it as a mist, and the visibility drops to 1 to 2 kilometers with relative humidity of 75%. So fog is the another reason of poor visibility. So it deteriorates to 1 kilometer due to condensed water vapor, and relative humidity is 75%. And smoke, so radiation of fog. So smoke haze and smoke almost, this is smog, sorry. Smog is the radiation fog, and smoke haze. It's a common thing. You can see the similarities actually. There is no much difference between smog and smoke haze. So this is about the visibility. Now let's talk about the humidity. What is humidity? Anyone?
The moisture in the atmosphere, sir.
The moisture or the water content that is held by an air. So that we call it as the humidity. See, every atmospheric condition has certain dew point. So if the air temperature reaches that dew point, then what happens is that it cannot hold that water content, and it will spell it out. And that spell, it is in the form of a mist, it is in the form of rain, all these. Got it? So if we look into the formal definition, the term humidity refers to water vapor in the air. Every air particle contains this water vapor content. So the amount of water vapor that air can hold depends on its temperature. So how much water content it can hold, it depends on the temperature. If the temperature is too huge, then it can accommodate, that air molecule can accommodate more water vapor content. So most commonly defined using relative humidity. So we define the humidity as relative humidity. So it is a ratio of actual vapor in the air to the maximum amount of air could hold at that temperature. This is very important. Write down. So relative humidity is a ratio of actual vapor in air, the maximum amount of air that it can hold at that temperature. So here there is one simple example. Here the temperature is 21 degrees and it has a relative humidity of 50%. It means the air molecule can hold 50% of the water at 21 degrees. But if the temperature drops, then its water holding ability reduces as the fall in temperature. And what you see here, the relative humidity is 100%. Then after that, what happens? Now the water which is there in air, it starts condensing. And Even if it drops further to 5 degrees, it spells it out and you can see as a mist, rain or anything. But again, if the temperature increases to 21 degrees, so now after spelling out whatever the air content that it is left, so then it can hold. So here in this case, it might be 35% of relative humidity. So hope you got this concept. Relative humidity concept is very important you to understand. So this is something called as dew point. So here the dew point is 10 degrees. And if the temperature goes below dew point, then it starts raining. As simple as that. So at dew point, what happens? You will start feeling a kind of mist. At dew point, it does not start rain. You will, at a times, what happens? At dew point, it's very cold. The atmosphere gets very cold. And then you will feel a kind of mist everywhere. And then if the temperature further drops, then what happens? You will experience the drizzle, slight drizzle kind of rain. So the atmosphere has a capacity, if you look into the definition, greater at higher temperature and lesser at lower temperature, of holding within it invisible form of water vapor, that is water in a gaseous form. Thus, when it holds the maximum capacity of water vapor, it can at any particular temperature. Now, relative humidity of a sample of air increases with the temperature decrease. It means the humidity and temperature is negative coefficients to each other, or relative humidity is negative temperature coefficient. You can call like this. Negative temperature coefficient means so relative humidity is negative temperature coefficient. It means as the temperature falls, if this is the temperature, then the relative humidity increases in terms of percentage. Remember, the relative humidity is always represented in terms of percentage, whereas the temperature in terms of degree, that you know, degree Celsius or degree Fahrenheit, degree Celsius, or it might be in Fahrenheit. So, the relative humidity of a sample of air increases when temperature decreases and vice versa. So as long as there is no condensation taking place, the absolute humidity is practically unaffected by temperature. So even you can experience this, you keep the cold glass of water outside, you take it out from refrigerator and keep it outside, you can see the water droplets formation on that glass or the water bottle, what you keep it, the cold water bottle. So absolute humidity remains more or less steady as long as the temperature does not decrease before dew point. So when the temperature at which the water vapor actually present in the air, that is becomes significant. That is what I explained to you already. So there is a formula here. As I told you, the relative humidity is a ratio between the actual amount of water vapor present in air by a maximum amount of water vapor the air can hold at that temperature. Okay. And it is always expressed, the relative humidity is expressed in terms of percentage. So there is a formula and multiplied by 100. So to get it in percentage. Here. So actual amount of water vapor in air, that is grams per meter cube, because we are talking in terms of volume here, and the maximum amount of water vapor the air can take. It is something like this. It's a kind of air is a kind of a bag, or it's a kind of a bowl where the size of the bowl changes with the temperature, and the presence of water may not change. The presence of water remains same. You can think like this. The presence of water vapor in the bowl, you just think like this. It remains same, but the size of the bowl changes. As the temperature increases, the bowl becomes bigger. So it means it can hold more water vapor. As the temperature decreases, the bowl becomes smaller, means it can hold very less water vapor. So effect of condensation. So that is a dew and airframe icing. So what happens is that at a given temperature, air can hold a certain quantity of water vapor and more. And airframe icing is when dew point is below the freezing temperature, the water condenses into ice. This is very important actually. So which is we call it as airframe icing. So this is a major problem in the aircrafts. When the aircrafts are flying at a certain altitude, at higher altitudes, what happens? At the wings, there is a ice age formation takes place. And you know the fuel which is carried in the aircraft exists in the wings. And if the ice gets formed on the wings, then there will be no flow of fuel. And if there is no flow of fuel, then aircraft enters into a catastrophic effect. So that is why the fuel tank should be heated, not physical kind of heating. It is a kind of a different heating so that during the ice formation, you know, the near the on the leading edge of the wings, the ice formation should not happen it, and if it is happening, it should be taken care of with different mechanisms, and there should be continuous flow of fuel. The effect of condensation is formation of mist, moist, haze and fog, as I told you, or it results in precipitation, or it results in contrails. So contrails are they form due to moisture content in the exhaust gas. So you can see that when the aircraft fly in the air, you can see at the backside it's a kind of a smoke. It is not called as smoke, it's actually the contrails. So what happens in this contrail? So the exhaust gas from the engine, it gets condensed in a visible streak of waters or ice in the atmosphere. Because the air molecules there, it suddenly gets cooled because there is sudden change in temperature. So that forms the contrails. See, you see in this diagram, this is not the smoke, these are the contrails that are formed. So it is a water vapor present in the atmosphere. So what happens is that, so the long wave radiation from the earth, so it does prevents the surface of earth and lower layer of atmosphere from getting chilled to a temperature unbearably low. So water vapor is also responsible for many of the weather phenomena which occurs. So these are called as contrails, remember it. So if you have any questions, you can ask. That's the end of today's session.